Hello and welcome back to this video. This will be explaining the 3 runes that you could have got from the previous event. Maybe you want to know what they could have done for you, or maybe just see all the other options that each rune can give you in case you haven't checked for yourself yet. We're going to be starting from left to right of the runes that you can see now, and each rune has 3 different variations depending if it's on a tank, mage or archer. It doesn't depend on the weapon or the armour, it's only on the person itself. So as you can see from the first 2, that it doesn't matter which person, if it's on a tank, they're different armours, I can promise you, and the weapons are clearly different from a double dagger to a mace, and they give the same stats. So what we're going to do, we're going to explain what each rune does for the warrior, mage, then archer, and then I'll say which one I prefer out of all those 3, and then we move on to the next rune, and then yeah, we'll basically call it there. So begin with the first one. If you put it onto a tank, once he has taken so much damage, this will obviously depend based on your throne room, so I'm going to try and make it a little bit more vague. But once he's taken so much damage, he'll heal 3 allies for a certain amount, and this will trigger every 1.5 seconds. Unless you've not taken enough damage, that's why it might take longer sometimes, but the quickest it will be is 1.5 seconds. So if you take less damage, then it's going to have to take longer before it activates. If you put it onto a mage, once every 6.7 seconds, at least for this, that you'll either be giving an ally more damage per each enemy that's alive, or making them reduced amount of damage they take again for each enemy alive. If the coin is tossed to an enemy, then they will be stunned for between 2 to 4 seconds for my current throne room. If you put on an archer, it blesses 4 allies with the least current health, and each shot fired, the wearer will restore 45% of the damage he's done, which is actually really good. Between these 3, personally I recommend it for the tank for this rune, because the amount of healing you can give for 3 allies can be quite consistent, especially if it's every 1.5 seconds and you're taking a lot of damage. If you've got a super good tank, then I'd certainly recommend putting on them over anything else, but if you have got a good archer, then I would recommend that too. I just think the mage is completely off this one. So then moving on to the next one, when the battle starts for the tank, you can then sacrifice a chunk of your health, and then it will spawn in these random monsters that will deal damage over time, and the damage for these are around the same for all 3 characters, but basically he'll heal the person who's just sacrificed their health for, which can go amazing if you've got this armour which reduces, when you've got critically low health, it increases your health back to a certain percentage depending what rune you have on for it as well, so they can go really well together. But for anyone else, this is still not a bad thing because you can still get healed for the percentage back and it will deal damage to enemies. The next, it could deal once in a while, inflict damage, so much damage again, it's depending on your throne room, to 2 to 3 enemies with the least current health, and stuns them for a short amount of time, which can be very helpful because once in a while, that means it could happen, obviously it really does depend, but normally around 2 to 3 times within a fight. Looking for the archer, when dealing a critical damage, which will really enhance this for people who are heroes. If you don't, then it really wasn't going to make a big difference anyway. But when you hit a critical, it will then shoot an arrow at the closest and furthest enemy target, so most likely a tank and an archer, and that will deal 45,000 damage and of the weapon as well over 5 seconds. So again around 90,000 damage at least from base, that's for throne room level 11. So again that's not too bad. Out of these 3, I personally would recommend most likely using it for the mage. If you've got a really good archer, then I still think that's a fantastic way to go because the amount of damage it does plus the weapon damage, then that's a good boost that you got for yourself. I don't think it's even recommended for the tank, even if you've got that armor. I think the combo is still great together, but the other 2 certainly outweigh it. So again, go for the mage one. If you've got a terrible mage or you've just focused on your archer, then really go for the archer first. Right, moving on to the final one. This will be great on an assassin if you have one available. Again, once in a while, which means it will happen a few times within a fight if available. And basically this will curse a target for 5 seconds, and this will deal so much damage, and if you're able to get the kill, you'll gain 35% of their max health back as healing over 2 seconds, which is really good, and then you'll also gain a shield for the 25% of their max health. So that's a pretty good one for assassins. The next one, it will open up a portal, and this will be if you use it on a mage. It will throw somebody away for 3.5 seconds, and when it brings them back, both the person teleported and whoever gets thrown back into them will take 30,000 damage each, and the person that gets thrown out will also gain increased movement speed, which isn't really help to you, but I think it's more because you've taken them away for so long, and then it allows the enemy to at least have them in the fight for a short time. This is still an okay amount of damage, but I still think that the Shadowfire is a much better option. Finally, for the archer, once in a while it will tie the target and a random enemy with a magical bond for 4 seconds. 65% of the damage taken from one of the enemies will be dealt to the other one, so that's a fantastic amount. when one of them dies, the other TIE person takes 20% from the max health that the dead person would have had, so then that's still a good chunk of damage if you was able to kill a tank, but again not so much if you got an archer. So out of these three, I'd recommend putting it on a tank. Again, I think the Shadowfighter can benefit, Shadowfighter and Assassin could benefit from this massively over the other two, but let's say you don't have any good tanks and you focus on other people, then again I think the archer would be the next best choice, but pick and choose which ones are your best ones from here. So going from left to right of the new runes, I would put it on a tank, then on a mage, and then on an assassin if you have one available, and if not, an archer is still a very good choice. I really hope you have enjoyed this one. Enough for a like and maybe a subscribe if you're new here. I will be doing some gameplay videos of the more AAA title games in the next coming months because there's some big ones coming out, so make sure you subscribe for that if you want to be seeing some of those. And yes, I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.